morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dr. Soul Brother again, here on this channel to help cure you of some of your ills. Dr. Soul Brother wants to have a chat with the fam about our black athletes, specifically black athletes who have participated and participate in the Olympics. There's been some interesting talk, to say the least, about should black athletes participate in the Olympics, and why you representing America, and America's a racist country, blah blah this and all that. Well, first of all, I have a lot to say on this, but I'll keep it brief and precise. First of all, it's a stupid argument for a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, you have black athletes who participate in the Olympics who represent Canada, who represent um, England, places like that. Some of those athletes were born and raised in Canada. Some of them were born and raised in England. But you have others who are transports from either Africa or the Caribbean. For example, back in the day, you had, what's the guy's name? Ben Johnson, who ran in the '88 Olympics. He was from Jamaica. Donovan Bailey, who ran against Michael Johnson in the 1996 Olympics when he was in Atlanta, from Jamaica. He's not Canadian born, he's from Jamaica. A guy named Lyford Christie, who represented the England, Jamaica. We grew up in England, but nevertheless, he was not born on uh, English soil. So it's and we know about the history of black folk catching hell in places like England, with this racist history towards black folk, be they African, Caribbean, or those who were born there. And yet, nobody trips. But you have black folks from America, for the most part, with the exception of a few here and there, but for the most part, who were born and raised here and have roots here, by the way, not just born and raised here, but have roots here. And all of a sudden, it's an issue. Well, back in the day, you had a documentary. Uh, it's a documentary, and it's dealing with the 1936 Olympics. Jesse Owens and a bunch of other black athletes. You should look this documentary up. And Olympic Pride, American something. I'm drawing a blank for some reason. Please forgive me. At some point, maybe in the uh, chat, I'll have the title, or if somebody can look that up and put it in the chat, I'd appreciate it. At any rate, it's based on, there's a sister named Deborah Riley Draper, or Deborah Draper Riley, something like that. Did a documentary. She's a very good documentarian, very good, and they it's based on the whole thing with um, uh, the 1936 Olympics with the black athletes. And we said it wasn't just Jesse Owens; there were others who ran. My point is, even though there were some who didn't want to run and wanted to boycott the Olympics in 1936, which is a whole nother conversation, they realized that that wasn't going to work, so they made the decision, oh, hey, let's beat these Germans who think they're better than us. That was their attitude, okay? And they were able to strut their stuff, so to speak, on the field, on the world stage, okay? At that time, the United States of America was dealing with what I call suffocating racism. Suffocating, my God. 1936, lynchings were taking place. Uh, uh, Segregation in the Deep South was taking place. And other forms of racial discrimination were taking place in other parts of the United States. And yet, black folk in the community were not throwing shade on their black brothers and sisters um, who were on the world stage. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. Um, well, before yeah, now I'm gonna go on and get to that. Here's the thing that's interesting. It just goes to show you how the human mind is just a peculiar thing. The longer I live, the more I I'm I'm really tripping off of how a human mind works. There are those, and you know who you are, who want to say, well, I don't support the black athletes running uh, in the Olympics and they representing America, and I hate those colors, I hate those letters, etc. And when they get whooped by the other folks, I'm glad. I've actually been told this, believe it or not. Here's the thing, it's interesting. Maybe not all, but some of those same people who think and express those kind of sentiments, it's interesting. When you sitting up front of the TV watching the gymnastics, um, or some other sport other than track and field, you're rooting for your fellow black American brother or sister. So I'll say, wait a second, something's wrong here. That's not consistent at all. So if you were really about that, then you would be against them, period. But you're not. It's only as it relates to track and field. You know why? Because they're running up against African and Caribbean folk who are black. So then the question I have to ask, if those track runners were running up against, let's say, runners from the Caribbean who were non black, would you still be rooting for the Caribbean team? Would you still be Team Caribbean then? Really? Now, let's sit in that for a second. In fact, I'm going to use that as a segue into this next point. Somebody named Taekwondo Tracy on social media posted, because in this Olympics that we're having, there was a sister from um, what was that country? Oh, uh, what was that country? It's this island there, um, who won. Her name was Julian Alfred, and from what I understand, she was trained here, so she must have gone to college here. But Saint Lucia is the country that she was from. Saint Lucia. This fool, Taekwondo, Taekwondo, Tracy, talks about, quote, on behalf of Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean, we thank you, Julian Alfred. And then this clown was also quoted as saying this, quote, as long as it wasn't an American that wins, I'm fine with that. End of quote. Okay, sucker. This is not now. I'm gonna have to jump in your behind. First of all, you are really showing your true colors because we know for a fact that you have a segment of the Jamaican population who are guilty of this, and you have those Jamaicans who are opposed to this. But here's the point: you have a segment of the population of Jamaicans who engage in Jamaican chauvinism. And what ends up happening, they're not only chauvinistic as it relates to Black America, but they're chauvinistic as it relates to fellow islanders. Okay, that's a problem. So, uh, it's you say on behalf of Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean, we thank you, Julian Alfred. Well, first of all, to this sister, I don't know her, but I think that's great that she won. I ain't got no problem with that. I don't. But here's the thing: his motivation, or she, whatever, whatever he or she is here, talking about on behalf of Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean, we thank you, Julian Alfred. Um, you just happy that a fellow islander whooped your American cousins. Okay, that's what this is. And look, and what further reveals this is in another quote, we're saying, as long as it wasn't an American um, that won, I'm fine with that. What kind of see? I'm gonna tell you something, Black America. We have been playing ourselves. When you get on there talking about, well, I'm for anybody who wins as long as they black. See, what we don't understand is that's not how they see it. That's not how they see it. So when somebody like a Dr. Greg Carr, who's a sharp guy, but I got issues with Greg Carr when he wants to piss and crap all over his lineage. That's not only lineage on his ethnicity, which is African American. That's a problem, and his American identity. Anybody else who does that, you're a problem and a bad influence. Bad influence. Somebody named Satchel Cage was quoted saying, "I was just on a Jamaican live channel. There's some big haters. Yeah, I know that's been the problem. Um, and then Uh, this thing about somebody named Dee said, "Yep, I used to do that. Root for USA than anyone black. Now I only cheer for USA. I'm not part of the diaspora. They are not like us. They do not like us, and I accept the dislikes." Well, see, this is what we're doing. And then let's go further. CARICOM, um, on their page, was uh, promoting and saluting Caribbean runners in the Olympics. No mention of Black American runners. Okay, none. So, and what we found out about CARICOM in recent times, it really doesn't surprise us much. But let me move forward. If any of y'all have seen a documentary called Survival of the Fittest, it was a BBC documentary with Michael Johnson. In it, it's about why Jamaicans are fast. Well, first of all, Michael Johnson, brother man, I got to ask you this question. Why would you ask a question like that when you know or should know that there are Black American runners in the history of America who have a history of real speed? Nobody asked it, and it was not until let me give everybody a little brief history here. Caribbean folk didn't start running or participating in the Olympics until post World War II. Example: Jamaica did not participate in the Olympics on the world stage until 1948, to be specific. And even when that happened, it was uh, black folks throughout the diaspora were still rooting for Black America. And even when they more of their countrymen started participating, they of course they rooted for their fellow countrymen as well. They should, no problem with that. But they also saluted uh, Black American runners. However, it seems to have been more like in the 1990s, I believe, when things started to take a turn, take a turn, and it got crazy. But getting back to this documentary, Survival of the Fastest, uh, one of the reasons why I'm citing this is because there's a part in the documentary where please, y'all, look for it on YouTube. Watch it when you get ready. And I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but just watch when Dr. Herb Elliott, who was at that time when this documentary was done, was the medical physician for the Jamaica team. Listen to what he says to Michael Johnson. And what does he say? Well, the strong ones sound like rhetoric from somebody else um, named Louis Farrakhan, but let me go on. He said, in terms of from Africa, in terms of the cargo, if you will, of uh, of enslaved Africans, that the toughest ones were brought to Jamaica and the more docile ones were sent everywhere else. First of all, that's a rude, arrogant, and inaccurate and in a historical remark. But beyond that, Michael Johnson sat there and didn't flinch. So if Michael Johnson is in the clouds, I gotta say, bruh, that man sat there and insulted you. He insulted you because ultimately, in the end, you have a negative outlook as it relates to your uh, lineage in this country. And it was clear. Well, I'm not going to spoil it. Let me not say because that's going to take me down another rabbit hole, and I don't want to do that here. But uh, please, everybody, watch that documentary. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. Um. So this thing about the folk who are against the black athletes running and all that kind of stuff, and it even got to the point where I think it was 2008, 2012. Yes, where there was a sister named Sonia Ross, who's now a retired track runner. In fact, she is like a commentator, sports commentator, like Otto Bolden, who ran in the 1990s. In fact, I remember he ran running representing Trinidad, his country. Well, the thing that's interesting is this: Otto Bolden came to this country. I want to say he was junior high school, something like that. I think it was junior high school. And so he meaning he finished his youth here in these United States, which means that when he was running on the world stage, he was representing Trinidad, which means he had his Trinidadian citizenship. Now I don't know if he's since become a uh, American citizen. I don't know. Only he can answer that. But the fact that he was running, representing his country while living here, no problem, no problem at all. Sonia Richards Ross, on the other hand, which is a whole nother conversation, she was representing the United States. Why? Because she came here in junior high school and became a naturalized citizen because she, where she was living, is either Florida or New York. I can't remember. She had developed friends with Black Americans, and what she did, she when she would compete to show a sense of camaraderie, if you will, she became an American citizen. And not only that, in college, she met a brother who was an athlete, and they later got married. And she lives in Austin, Texas, which I believe the brother is from Texas. He's a fellow Texan, I believe. Anyway, the point is that there were some folks who were throwing shade on this sister because she was representing the United States, as if to say or suggest that she was somehow committing treason, which she was not. She was not. But I'm telling you now, the only reason why she's considered or was considered committing treason is because she was representing the United States. So you have that situation, and you also have those who look down upon their fellow black brothers and sisters who have roots here as committing treason for representing the United States. My God in heaven, it's come to this. It has come to this. This is awful, awful. This wasn't the case in 1984 when Evelyn Ashford and the other folks, Edwin Moses and Carl Lewis and a host of other black American athletes were running. That was not the case. It certainly was not the case back in the 1930s, 1950s, and 60s with Wilma Rudolph and Rayford Johnson and Tommy Smith and John Carlos and folks of that ilk when they participated in the Olympics. No, it wasn't. That was not the case. And even though Tommy Smith and John Carlos clenched their fists with the Black Power salute on the world stage because they were protesting against the injustices that existed and continue to exist in America, that was not their way of trying to show any disrespect to the flag or to the country of their birth. What they were trying to do was point out the contradictions, the injustices that existed while we were supposed to have been uh, free and all that. I mean, we were free in the sense of we were not shackled on the plantation, but the inequalities led to a lot of other problems. Well, the thing is this: um, we are not going anywhere, and the fact that you have majority, exclusively rather, black athletes on the track and field in the Olympics. That's what's so ironic. Some of these same people who want to throw shade on the black athletes for participating in the Olympics, when the majority of the of the athletes on the team are black. Whereas back in the day when black folks were participating in the Olympics, especially in track and field, we were in the minority. And yet black folks were saluting them from a distance. Something's wrong here. So here's the thing. You folks out there who think very little of your heritage in these United States, shame on you. Do not listen to the so-called um, um, conscious community. They have caused more harm than anything else. They have been a problem. And I'm saying to you straight up, you need to back off. And for you to turn around, yeah, the Shikari, the Richardsons, the Noah Lyles, and a host of others, we need to cheer them on and salute them. And I don't want to hear this stuff, but well, look at Shikari. She got tattoos. Hey, the sisters who represent Jamaica, they had tattoos. You didn't say nothing about them. Look at her name. Shakari. That's so ghetto. Well, you don't say nothing about no Sharika, and she's representing Jamaica. So, oh, I get it. So, what it is, it's not the content, it's the source, it's who it's associated with. Huh? Y'all don't fool me, man. No, you're a problem. So, Here's the thing: there needs to be self or personal inventory. Straight up. We are Americans. We're not ashamed of that. You are not going to shame and guilt us of our lineage, of our heritage, and the fact that we have represented our culture, our country on the world stage, not just as it relates to the Olympics, but in a host of other areas. When you think of the great black inventors, this is not chauvinistic, it is a fact. You've got to think of these United States of America. Everybody else does. When you think of um, uh, a host of other things in terms of how, say, American culture has been influential on the world stage, it has been primarily Black America. Period. There's no getting around it. So, no, going forward, we need to salute our people who represent. I'm very proud of what Noah and Shakari and the others have done. And I said, I salute that sister out of St. Lucia. I don't know her, but that's a big win for her because this is unprecedented. So I salute her for that. But at the same time, I am standing shoulder to shoulder with others when it comes to our country straight up. Uh, you are not going to shame and guilt me and the rest of us for our American identity. And those of you who do that, you need a psychological evaluation. A psychological evaluation that ain't normal. And in spite of all the madness and chaos that exists in places like Haiti, in places like Bahamas, in places like Jamaica, that's off the Richter, in spite of those realities, in spite of the fact, pardon me, that you had those Jamaicans who basically demonstrated what was the lyric in the song by uh, Rapper's Delight. That's it. I gotta leave this place. I don't care what these people think. Well, guess what? Even those Jamaicans who are here, they salute their countrymen who are on the world stage. So just as they can and nobody trips, so can Black America. So with that, I will say salute our athletes on the world stage, and not just as it relates to that. When it comes to tennis and a host of other areas, we need to salute and support them. Period. So with that, I'm gonna end it. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the comment section, and please, y'all not listening, let me know how I can get this StreamYard link so I can have a live show. Nobody's gotten back to me yet. I'm looking for that. These recorded shows are fine, but I need to have a live show where I'm able to um, engage with some of y'all. So with that, I'm going to end it. Until the next time, God bless.